President Biden is deeply committed, and this is very personal for him, to Israel's security, to the U.S.-Israel partnership, to ensuring that Israel always has what it needs to defend itself. Those commitments are never going to be called into question. At the same time, he is conducting a presidency whose one of its main themes is the defense of democracy against threats of illiberal governance. That's both at home in the United States and abroad, where many democracies have been challenged by illiberal winds blowing in their society. And that's true in Israel. And that's what he said, that the proposals that would have resulted in a concentration of power should be addressed or put to the side, and a consensus and a slower process and more transparent process should be undertaken. And that's how what is really at the core of the U.S.-Israel relationship, which is the common bonds of two democratic societies, would be sustained by maintaining separation of powers, checks and balances, rule of law, and protection of basic rights. So that's the case he has made. He will continue to make it. He will continue to make it while also continuing to make sure that Israel always can defend itself from all the threats it faces from the various enemies who seek to harm it. And he's going to maintain that balance. And I think that won't actually be a problem for him to do so politically as he goes into his re-election campaign.
Of course, Dan, the other thing that the administration is looking at is this latest deal brokered by China to bring together Saudi Arabia and Iran. What does that mean for Israel and future prospects of Israel-Arab ties? Are we going to see a setback as a result of that?
The countries that have already normalized their relations with Israel, the UAE, Bahrain, and Morocco, have really made strategic decisions that I don't think are in any jeopardy of being rolled back. There has been a bit of a pause or a slowdown in additional progress, both on those relations and on additional countries joining the Abraham Accords. And I think that's due to many factors. One of them certainly is this government in Israel, which is the most right-wing government in Israel's history. It includes many members of its government and several very extreme members who rule out any possibility of a Palestinian state or a two-state solution, seek to de facto or even de jure annex the West Bank, something Arab states would find very difficult to absorb. I think the Saudi decision to de-escalate its tensions with Iran is actually something the United States can support and doesn't even need to be incompatible with Saudi or other Arab states also warming up their relations with Israel. The real question is, the fact that was that agreement that was brokered by China or signed in Beijing represent a very significant Chinese intervention or introduction of its influence into the Middle East that challenges the United States. I also think that's very much in question. China certainly has relations, economic relations with Iran and Saudi Arabia, and some degree of influence, but it doesn't have anywhere near the security capabilities or presence in the Middle East. And if Iran returns to its traditional patterns, its ideological and strategic vision, which almost requires it to eventually return to conflict with Saudi Arabia and other Arab states, it's not clear China will have any answers to that. Saudi Arabia and other Arab states will return to the United States and the U.S., Israel, moderate Arab bloc as their core of their security as well.